If you're thinking about buying your first home, there are a few things that most people don't find out until they're already in the process. And by then, it can be stressful and expensive. So in this video, I want to walk you through some of the things first-time homebuyers wish they knew earlier so you can go into the process feeling prepared and confident. Hi, I'm real estate broker Sharon McLennan, and today I want to share some insights with you that most first-time homebuyers don't get until it's too late. So let's dive in. Most of the time when I talk to prospective buyers, they're focused on making sure that they save enough for their down payment. That's the hurdle that they're focused on overcoming. They're completely locked in making sure that they have enough money for the down payment. And typically, if it's 3.5 or 5% of the home's purchase price, they have a real idea of what that number is. That's been determined based on what they qualify for. But what a lot of first-time home buyers don't realize is that there's more to it than that. Not only do you need to have money saved up for your down payment, you're also going to need funds for closing costs, and that can run anywhere between 3 and 5% of the cost of the home, as well as moving expenses, because you have to get from where you are to moving to your new place, as well as making provisions for any minor repairs that you may need to do after closing. Most home buyers want to put their own stamp on the property that they moved into, and even properties that are in really good condition, move-in ready. A home buyer may be interested in changing the paint color or making an inexpensive update, but you still have to have the funding to be able to take care of that. So the big takeaway for you is to just keep in mind that one, you need to be focused on more than just the down payment, and there are resources that are available to help you, but you need to make sure that you're focused on having that conversation and that you're accumulating enough funds to be able to meet the expenses as they come up during the course of the process. What can also sometimes be a surprise for you home buyers is that the mortgage payment is not just the principal and interest on the mortgage. Most first-time home buyers get a loan product that requires that they escrow, meaning that they pay on a monthly basis. They pay for their property taxes, they pay for their homeowner's insurance, and that would be included in your mortgage payment. So your mortgage payment typically has 4 components. We call it PITI. That's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And that payment gets made every month to make sure that at the end of the year or when your insurance is up for renewal, you don't have to come out of pocket for the entire amount for the year. Each month you've set funds aside to make sure that when those bills come due, the funds have already been placed in escrow and it doesn't become an additional financial burden on you. Another thing to keep in mind is if you are in a condo or an HOA, homeowners association, it's important to know that there will be a payment that is related to that, and that can be due on a monthly or on a quarterly basis. So that's something that you need to be taking into consideration as you're looking at your monthly payment to determine whether or not it is something that is going to be manageable for you. Another thing to bear in mind as a first-time home buyer is just because you've been pre-approved for a specific amount doesn't mean that is going to be a comfortable amount for you to pay on a monthly basis. So do keep that in mind. Your pre-approval amount is the maximum debt that the bank is willing to extend to you. You now have to take that into consideration, looking at the monthly payment and determine based on the lifestyle that you have and that you intend to keep, whatever that looks like, that the expenses related to that are going to be able to coexist with your monthly mortgage payment and your association dues, whatever your housing expenses are. You need to take that into consideration. Housing is considered to be affordable if the total cost for your housing is between 28 and 30% of your gross income. So keep that in mind. Look at what your gross income, your gross household income is, and take 28 to 30% of that. And ideally, if you're looking to be in a home that would be considered affordable, 28 to 30% is where you want to be as it relates to your total housing payment. That prevents you from being house rich and cash poor. A lot of times I'm working with first-time home buyers and funds are tight because you are accumulating down payment, closing costs, and other fees that you're trying to pull together to make this purchase. And sometimes they'll ask, do they need a home inspection? And my answer to that is always 100% of the time, yes, you need a home inspection. A home inspection is the opportunity for a professional to come out, spend some time at the property, and make a real assessment as to what condition it's in. There are things that are happening behind the walls that you as a buyer and even as your real estate practitioner will never be able to know that your home inspector can clue you in. I regard home inspections as almost a type of insurance policy. That person comes in, they do a thorough job of making sure that your property is in good shape. There are no unexpected surprises. They look at all of your major systems to make sure that everything is functioning the way it's supposed to and that there are not going to be any unpleasant surprises. Please keep in mind that a home inspection from a licensed home inspector is different from having a friend or a family member that's a contractor do a general walkthrough of the property to give you an idea of if there are issues in the property. Two completely different things. One provides a degree of assurance that the other does not. So please don't confuse the walkthrough by a friend or family member who is in construction with the services that you're going to be getting from a licensed home inspector, because that definitely provides an added level of security and confidence in your buying process. Another thing that I share with my first-time home buyers is there is a tendency to take the news as the lender calls and says, hey, I have great news. You're approved for a mortgage. And a lot of times home buyers are not 100% clear on what that actually means. What that wording actually should be is, hey, I have great news. I have a preliminary approval for your loan. Okay? And the reason that I make that differentiation is a lot of times first-time home buyers think that once they've been approved, that's the end of the approval process, and now they have the ability to buy things and to spend funds that maybe they would not have done ahead of being approved. Bear in mind that the lender is going to do additional work. They're going to do follow-up verification ahead of closing. Your loan is not fully approved until it is funded, meaning you're sitting at the closing table, the funds have been wired from the lender, and you're ready to close. At that point, I would consider a loan fully approved. But up to the morning of closing, lenders verify employment sometimes. They recheck credit. They look at different information. And if something in your financial situation has changed, they reserve the right to decide that they're not going to go forward at that time. So bear in mind that you don't want to make any financial changes. Don't quit your job. Don't turn in your car. Don't buy a car. Don't buy new furniture. Don't declare bankruptcy. None of those things that seem crazy to do ahead of trying to get a loan should be done ahead of closing on a property, because you don't have a loan until the loan is closed and it's been funded. So do keep that in mind. Now, one of the things we talked about earlier is the importance of the home inspector and the work that he or she is going to do. Important to know that they're going to be looking at your systems to give you an idea of whether or not there are any issues. But things work today and stop working tomorrow. So it's really important that you, as a potential home buyer, start making plans to prepare for the major systems in your home that will ultimately need replacing. You have an HVAC system, that's your AC system. They have all of the things that we're going to talk about today have a shelf life. At some point, they're going to stop working. So you want to make sure that you're setting funds aside to be able to cover these things. The good news is that you'll know how much time you have left for the most part, or you'll have a general idea of how much time these systems have, because one of the things that your home inspector will give you is an estimate of remaining life on the product. So you're going to be looking at HVAC, you're going to be looking at water heaters, your roof, how much useful life is left on your roof. 15 to 20 years is typically the lifetime of a roof. But what we're seeing now is insurance companies being unwilling to insure roofs that are over 15 years old. So something to keep in mind. Your appliances, how old are they? How much life can you reasonably expect to have on them? And then, of course, plumbing and electrical. It's a really good idea to set aside approximately 1% of the value of the house every year to be able to deal with repairs that come up. Of course, you have the option of paying for it using credit card or financing. But if you're looking to get the biggest bang for your buck, in other words, to be able to pay for the repairs without having to pay financing costs for them, it's a good idea to set up a reserve, maybe have a separate account that you call home repairs, and every month you put a few dollars in that account so that when something breaks or needs to be repaired, you can just tap into those funds without having to go into additional debt and to incur additional interest. Bear in mind that this is a big deal. What you're doing is a big deal. It's a huge financial transaction, and the process takes time. Typically, as a first-time home buyer, you're going to have a time frame where you're searching for properties. Once you've found something that you like, you're going to make an offer. There will be some negotiation between you and the seller. Prayerfully, if everything goes well, there will be you as a buyer and the seller can reach an agreement, and there will be an accord. We'll go under contract, and while we're under contract, you'll be getting your financing in place. You'll be doing your inspections. The bank will be doing their appraisals. You'll be applying for your loan. There's a lot of activity that takes place when you're under contract. And then ultimately, we have the success of going to the closing table and having a closing day. The journey is involved. We're doing something that not everybody does because it's not easy. So it's really important to come in with the expectation that there are going to be challenges, but that you're going to be patient, you're going to be prudent, you're going to stay the course, because the financial payoff in the long run is so much more beneficial to you than the challenge of getting here. I recently saw a study that reported that the net worth of homeowners is typically 40 times that of renters. So when you make the decision to transition from renting to owning, that is a life-changing financial decision that you're making for yourself and for your family. So it's important to understand that this, just like every other life-changing decision, is not something that's a weekend project. It's not going to happen overnight. There are going to be setbacks. No, it's not just you that these things happen to. It's a part of the process. And if you're prepared and expecting that there will be hiccups, then when they take place, they won't be as stressful, and they certainly won't be as surprising, and they won't derail you. It's important to know that the right team can make all the difference. You want to make sure that you have the right real estate professional, your agent is working on your behalf, and that they are qualified. They've done this before, and they can help you navigate this process. It is complicated, and you want somebody who can help walk you through it. You also want to make sure that your lender is equally capable and can navigate some of the hiccups that will invariably come along. You want a lender who is available to talk with you, who can sit down and walk you through the process, explain some of the challenges, what some of the potential hurdles could be. Again, the goal is making sure that your expectations align with reality and that as little as possible is a surprise for you. Because for me, I have found that when I'm surprised or when something is an unexpected hiccup, I tend to be a little bit more stressed, or to be honest, a lot more stressed than I would be if this was something that I had anticipated. And that's the goal of making sure that you know as much as possible to be able to reduce stress and be able to navigate the process. And then the last but not least important person on your team is your home inspector. Your home inspector is going to be the person who is going to give you x-ray vision, give you a little bit more insight into the underlying conditions and potential problems with the property. That way you can make an informed decision as to whether or not you really want to go forward with the property or if this is maybe too much for you to take on at this time. The knowledge is power, and making sure that you have the right team assembled to give you the knowledge that you need to make the right decision is critical. So one of the things that I tell home buyers as well is that real estate and buying a house is an extremely nuanced process. No two people have the same experience, and your neighbor might have just bought something and had a certain type of experience. That does not mean that is going to be your experience. Every transaction is as individual as the people who are in the transaction. So unless you and your neighbor have the exact same income, exact same credit, exact same aspirations and desires in terms of what they're looking for, can find the exact same property, deal with the exact same seller, it's really impossible for you to have the same experience as somebody else. But what you can do is you can know what to expect based on where you are and what it is that you're looking for. So let's formulate a plan for you. If you're 6 months out or you're looking to do something to start your process next week, let's formulate a plan that will give you an idea of what to expect, what to plan for, and this will be specific to you and your circumstance and get you on the road to home ownership. The best ways to schedule some time for us to formulate your personal plan is by going to my website at simplyaskSharon.com and requesting a free 15-minute phone consultation with me. During that call, we'll talk about your specific situation, what you're looking for, what's going on in the market, and create a plan for you to be able to put in place whether you're ready to start right now or there's some things that you need to take care of ahead of getting started in the process. I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, please subscribe to my channel to be notified when new videos are released. I talk about the nitty-gritty of buying and selling real estate on a consistent basis. So if you're interested in getting more information about that process and how you can leverage the resources that are available to help you achieve home ownership and property ownership, please make sure that you tune in. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it helpful, and I look forward to seeing you the next time.